Welcome to the Changing Scripts podcast. For about 15 years, I was teaching the English language both overseas, mostly in Asia, and then in the US. And I found it really fascinating, the things that the Chinese language users were doing in the classrooms. And I always wanted to get on the other side of that. And when I came back to live in Shanghai, China in 2017, I decided to really focus on learning Mandarin Chinese. I have a YouTube channel that follows my process. This podcast is where I'm interviewing people that are learning the language, and I'm also interviewing people that grew up with Mandarin Chinese. This week on Changing Scripts podcast, I am really excited to welcome Vaughn to the podcast. He's been studying Mandarin Chinese for about 5 years now. Let's listen to what he has to say. Thank you so much, Vaughn, for joining me on the Changing Scripts podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell the listeners a little about yourself?
So I've been studying Mandarin for about 5 years. It's been quite a journey, full of ups and downs. But as I've gone along, I've found new and more interesting reasons to continue studying and to get to fluency. It's just been one of the most interesting kind of challenges that I've done in my life so far. It's just kind of like an endless well of information and new ideas and everything. So very fulfilling, and I really enjoy it thoroughly.
Okay. And you're based in the US right now, right?
I'm in LA, yeah.
Let's backtrack a little bit. I'd like to get people's viewpoints of their beginning languages before we dive into their current ones, which you're currently working on Mandarin. What was your first language?
My mother language is English. In high school, I studied Spanish for 4 years or something. And then in college, I took a couple of classes for Spanish. Didn't really get anywhere with it. I know you were a teacher, but I just never found the academic system to be very good at teaching languages or really just imparting the interest or passion to learn it. While I did learn a ton of vocabulary, it really didn't go anywhere. Recently, I was in a Spanish-speaking country, and some of it reactivated without studying. Thought that was really cool, but wasn't really able to use it. So there's that. Outside of that, that's about it. I've dabbled in other languages here and there, but it's mostly just, Spanish was before Mandarin.
Fair enough. And don't you worry. There's a certain way things are done in academia, and if you buck that system, it doesn't go well. I agree. There's something in the language classroom that is just not conducive to language learning.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I'd love to figure out how to change that or how to promote things outside. Lots of study stuff. But let's dig into that a little bit more. Specifically, let's talk about English. Do you have any memories about learning to read or write or speak or anything like super early on?
There are a couple times where I remember not understanding what a word meant and having to go look it up, or just not understanding what it was for years. That only really became apparent while I was studying Mandarin.
Do you remember what words some of them were?
My friend brought this one up. We were talking about something similar, and he brought up the example of to the left. Now, that concept is totally abstract. You can't really point to something and be like to the left. You can point to something and then point to the left of it, but it's still that's an abstract concept. That's not really something that you think about in your native language, like when thinking about learning a language or what kids have to go through, but it's something that you do come across when you're studying a new language. It's something similar, kind of like for Spanish, you're learning the grammar and everything. You're starting to understand specifically what the past tense does and how it's created and the different kind of forms of the past tense. And then you realize, oh, wait, we have this in English too. But it only became apparent once you started, studying another language.
I went to school just before they stopped explicitly teaching grammar and having to do like diagramming and stuff, like in the US in the 70s and whatnot. Apparently just after me is when that explicit instruction stopped. And I hear what you're saying from so many people, especially the English teachers that go overseas and they're like, you know what, in my English training program or my first classroom, they were like frantically looking up titles of verb tenses and things because they're like, they knew how to use the language, but they didn't grow up in the educational system labeling it and knowing how to categorize it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I did learn a little bit about different things. I remember not understanding what an adjective was as a child. I couldn't wrap my head around it. There are a lot of things I remember from school that I didn't quite get at the time. And lately I've been starting to understand. Stuff like that. It didn't make any sense to me, but over time it improved, definitely.
When they're growing up and learning their first language or first languages, some people tend to really gravitate towards reading. Some people really like speaking. Some people like writing. Where did you fall in that?
I think I hated it all. very, very introverted and everything. That's probably the easiest part for me was talking. I didn't really like reading, but that's mostly because of like academics. Like it's too forceful, I think, didn't really cater to my interests, which, I mean, it's not supposed to, but I never felt motivated. So, you know, like reading Hardy Boys or Cam Jansen or something like that, I was like, this is not really for me, you know.
Yeah.
Boring. But yeah, so definitely speaking. And then occasionally I liked writing, very kind of like expansive imagination. Yeah, writing still was kind of boring, mostly because it's just for school, you know.
At any point in your life, start to read a lot or start to write a lot or start to enjoy those things?
I don't think so. I've been trying to read more, but this has more to do with like trying to get away from YouTube, try to get away from like, like the...
Blasphemy, Ron, blasphemy.
Well, every once in a while, you know, I'll watch some YouTube. I don't like so much having to be part of like this one more click, one more, like scroll down just a little bit more just to see what comes next, you know. And so I've been trying to like drive my own entertainment and do something that's more productive. This is kind of sparked by the idea that IQ is linked to reading, and also your ability to use a language also linked to reading, which, I mean, they're all kind of tied together. So, you know, I started with reading Mandarin. My personal method of studying Mandarin is through just reading, and it's like from the very beginning, it's just... Yeah, it's like incredibly laborious, I guess is the word, but it gives you like a massive amount of vocabulary and understanding of the language very quickly. I'm trying to transition that over back to English so that I continue to develop there too, because I notice that you can lose functionality in one language as you learn another one, or at least temporarily. I don't know how it is like later on, but yeah, like so it's important to keep it balanced, I think.
Yeah, no, it's really true. And in language teaching, I don't know if it's an official term, but we would just call it language erosion. Because as we were teaching, especially low-level language learners, we weren't necessarily functioning in the local language. Also, we weren't really using our regular home language, what have you, to any normal degree. We were doing very simple sentences to help teach them the language and things. So we would end up not being able to form full, beautiful sentences. By the end of the day, we'd be like, kind of thing.
Wow.
It's a real thing. I think that's when I started listening to a lot of podcasts and reading a lot online, because I didn't have a lot of paper books where I was overseas, but I needed something to go in so I could keep the language alive while I was teaching.
Interesting. That's got to be like kind of frightening to be like, I can't remember what that word is anymore or something.
I did grow up as a reader. I think it was just instinct. As soon as I started to notice it, I was just like, obviously I just need more content. So I just started grabbing at whatever I could to read. That the more commas, the better. The meatier the vocabulary, the better. And
maybe more like literary kind of novels, or do you read like technical kind of stuff? Or
honestly, it depended on what the internet would let me get a hold of. I read some news stuff. There were some travel writers that had really beautiful, dense, meaty, introspective sentences. So I read a lot of their stuff. I read some autobiographical stuff. I started to listen to podcasts, and I tended to lean towards stuff that had presenters that had really colorful, very intense vocabulary, because I felt like I was losing some of mine. So, yeah. But it wasn't the only stuff. I was still watching ridiculous videos on YouTube and listening to songs. I mean, I don't want to give the impression that I'm like this super intelligent person that only reads really deep stuff. That's a lie. Totally a lie.
Definitely space to watch cat videos and whatever, you know, those are some of the best videos on the internet.
Cat videos comes up into almost every interview I do, no matter what the topic is.
Oh my God. I mean, they're popular. They're cool.
It was like the beginning of YouTube with cat videos. But no, I do watch silly videos on YouTube, but for some reason the animal ones are not where I gravitate. Okay, do you have a channel you recommend for silly cat videos?
There are a couple of videos that I could recommend. I'll have to find them, but
okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I will keep an open mind. I do like cats. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is. So did you skip over pinyin completely then and just go to the Hansa character?
Oh, no. First of all, I found Chris from, I forget his last name, but I think he changed his name to learnmandarin.com or something like that. That's his YouTube channel. But Found him. He recommended a whole bunch of things. One of those pieces of software was Dim Sum, which is what I used before Pleco. I looked at all these resources, and then I didn't really know where to start. So I tried to find somebody that could kind of bridge me into it. And that was Serge Melnick. He has like a whole set of, not podcasts, but audio lessons with transcripting. Like he would have some vocabulary. He would say the word, and then he'd have a native speaker say the word. And, you know, from lesson to lesson, you'd have like, it sounded like a Taiwanese one, mainland speaker or something like that. And so, you know, you'd listen to him say it, then you listen to her say it, and then you would say it. So over time, I built up that kind of responsiveness. And then I would look at the pinyin from transfer wherever. Actually, I'm not really sure where I got that at first. I did that for a few months. And then I started to realize that there are a lot of homophones and homonyms. There are a lot of times when you can get tripped up thinking that one word is another, or thinking that the character is a reverse. It's a different word. And so I started realizing, I'm not getting enough information from just reading the romanization. I'm not getting enough information from just listening. It's just a soup, muddy soup. So I started looking at the characters, first simplified, and then over time, I was curious. I wonder what the traditional ones look like. Or something like those. And I kind of through reading traditional characters, I saw there's more information there. And it was kind of helpful to be able to understand the way that the characters were simplified and everything. And, it just started creating all these other connections.
Dim Sum's like an online dictionary or an app, or?
It's like a PC application.
Oh, okay.
I was using that first. It was good, but it's so cumbersome. Full idea for dictionaries and stuff, get as fast of a lookup as possible.
Right.
The amount of times I look up a word in a reading session or something, it's crazy. I remember the first day I started studying, the first page I read, it took me 3 hours to read maybe a 5-sentence paragraph. And my brain was on fire from that. Eventually finding Pleco, it's way better because you can go so much faster. And then learning how to handwrite in Pleco, it's even faster.
I love that feature so much.
Did you ever use the photo?
I do, but I actually find it faster if I write it.
Yeah.
Although I have a slight gripe with them that they still consider the stroke order important, because if it looks the same, I'm still on the page of it should be recognized. Yeah. But I still think it's so easy, because if you don't know how it sounds, you don't know where to start. So I just start drawing it in and poof, there it is. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Makes me wonder, how do deaf people in China actually learn the language? There's so many characters and everything. I can't imagine trying to understand characters without the sounds.
That's a really good point. Okay, I'm going to research that. I've seen Braille in China. I'm not sure if it's an international version or a different languages version, or do they have their own version? But I have seen it. I've probably taken pictures of it. And it doesn't look like the characters. It looks just like the dots of other Brailles that I've seen.
That's definitely something to look up, because unless I'm very intimate with the character, I really understand it, then I sub-vocalize. And that's the only way that I can understand it. I can see it and try to split myself from it, but the comprehension doesn't work so well because they're kind of connected.
I have a new YouTube channel called Tube to Pod, and what I want to do in this channel is have micro videos of people answering 3 questions about podcasts. My goal for this channel is to bridge people from YouTube over to podcasts, not to replace their YouTube viewing, but to supplement it with podcasts. A lot of people apparently still are not listening to podcasts, still are unaware of what they are, what they can do with them, what they can learn from them, that kind of thing. So the 3 questions are: 1, where do you listen to podcasts? 2, why do you listen to podcasts? And 3, what is your favorite podcast at the moment? Now, if you're interested in participating in this, you can either post a video under 2 minutes on Instagram with the hashtag TubeToPod, TUBETOPOD, or you can email me your video and I'll post it on the YouTube channel. If you put it on Instagram, I'll record it, copy it over onto the channel. If you send it to me via email, I'll post it over onto the channel. And if you are more tech savvy than clearly I am, and you know a better way how to get other people's videos onto YouTube, please let me know, because right now I'm doing a copy and paste kind of thing. So I really look forward to your participation in that. Again, it's under 2 minutes. It's 3 questions. It's super easy. I want to expose people on YouTube to another audio experience that I think they would really, really enjoy to spread the joy of podcasts. I think there's a lot of specific niche content out there that can teach us a lot about the world and a lot about the things we're already interested in moments of the day when we're not doing anything else with our brain. So yeah, it's a push to people to learn more about the things that they are already interested in, or learn about things that they don't even know exist yet. Anyway, Tube to Pod. I'll also put the link to the new channel in the show notes.
You mentioned Taiwan and you've been studying Chinese for a while. Have you been to any place that uses it as their main language?
I was in China in 2008, right before the Olympics. And I knew some words. I grew up around the language. I never spoke any of it. Gained like a kind of passive understanding of a few words, but I didn't really understand them, and I definitely couldn't pronounce them. So, I mean, I had some limited words that I could say when I was there. And of course, like you always pick up stuff when you go and you're in a country. So just for a couple of weeks in 2008.
And you were up in Beijing for the games?
No, I was there before. I just graduated high school, and I was there for, it's like something for people that are interested in politics, and it's kind of like a track to get them moving towards politics. And you know, it was just kind of an experience because they had people from all over the U.S. and actually all over the world come and join. So it was cool.
Now, you mentioned you grew up with the language around you. What does that mean?
So I practiced martial arts, wushu. Yeah, and my coach was from Beijing. You know, she would talk to other people in it, and I hear it a lot. You know, having characters on shirts and stuff like that. Like you see it, like you're exposed to it. But I mean, it's complex language. It did help to kind of like spark interest in learning it. It's like you're around it, you see it, and you're like, you don't know what it is. And then someday, like, it just dawns on me, like, oh, yeah, like, I could just learn that if I wanted to.
You started learning Mandarin Chinese after your schooling?
Yeah.
What sparked that interest?
I used to do this thing called tricking, and it's like martial arts that got turned into acrobatics that combined with gymnastics. So I was doing that for a while, and I would follow people on YouTube and, like, watch their videos. And came across this guy. I think he's Danish. I think his name is Victor. But he would post videos about tricking, and then occasionally he would post videos about Japanese, and he would do like these language lessons for Japanese and English. It's like, oh, that's really cool. So I would like look at those, you know, from time to time, and be like, oh man, this is really cool. Like it's easy and it's kind of fun. And I asked him, I was like, wait a second. So you're teaching Japanese in English, and English isn't your first language either. Like, he's like, oh no, this is my second language. Japanese my third. And I was like, oh my God. Well, he was showing like how he was learning Japanese. He showed that he went to Japan and how he had worked there for like 1 or 2 months as, you know, in a grocery store, and how he's communicating with people. He was on TV, you know, he spoke it really well. He spoke English really well. And I just was like fascinated by that. Like, it seems like he had learned Japanese the same way he had learned how to trick, which was, you know, a lot of self-study and dedication. Oh, this is actually possible. Like somebody can actually do that. Because at that point, I was about 6 years into my tricking career. So like I had gone from total scratch to like had built up a certain amount of skill in that. And I'd seen something that should have been impossible, or people feel like is impossible, be very possible for me. So it's like, this can definitely happen for something else. So I gave it a try.
And you're still doing that now?
I do it off and on. I mean, I've kind of gotten my fill from it. It's been about 10 years. I've kind of done everything that I wanted to do in it. There's a lot further I could go, but I'm also not as young as I used to be. Yeah.
Let's play with the comparison between learning Spanish and learning Chinese. Are there any comparisons on how you learn them, or the languages themselves? Or
the one that I always bring up to people that like don't study language is the amount of effort you have to put in. Now, for the first pretty much 4 years I studied Mandarin, I never thought it was hard. For me, like in my opinion, it was like an exercise in diligence and patience. It's not really challenging in that it's hard to understand. You just need to take your time and learn every day, you know, study some. But the comparison I give them is Spanish, you can study for 4 months to a year. you study, I don't know, somewhere between 2 hours and 8 hours a day, you'll attain some ability to speak to people, to write, to read, like you'll be actually somewhat good at the language. You can use it. Chinese, though, I studied for at least 6 hours a day for a while, and I would take breaks. Obviously, I'd do like two weeks on, and I would get burned, and I would have to take some time off, and I'd do it again. I couldn't say anything. I still couldn't read anything. I could barely listen to anything. I couldn't understand anything. It was ridiculous to me because, at that point, I was still understanding what a word was in Chinese. But I didn't understand that character is not a word. I didn't understand how many characters formed a word, or I didn't understand what different grammar particles were and what they did. I was still trying to grasp things like jiu, or like some other basic ones like wo or lo. And I'm still having trouble with those, to be honest. I have so many different meanings. I have so many different instances of their uses. And it's just all of that combined just makes it so much different from learning Spanish. I feel like now that I'm 5 years in, I'm finally getting to that point where I was with Spanish. Because I'm finally getting to the point where I can look at a news article, or I can look at a book, and I can read it without the dictionary and get the gist of it. I still need a dictionary. I still have to look up dozens of words all the time, or hundreds of words in a serious session. But it's taken this much time and effort to get to that point where I can just kind of absorb it more casually.
I'm actually really relieved to hear you say all of this, because there's a lot of people that do intensive classes and immerse themselves in the environment and claim that 6 months to a year and they're fluent. And I hear them talking, but I can't gauge if they are or not, or if people are just being kind and responding in some way to them. So I've heard a lot of people do that stuff. And so I'm a year and a half in, and I'm finally able to read very graded text. We're talking HSK3 texts I can read, mostly looking up some stuff. But I don't really understand a lot of what I'm reading yet. But I can finally read without the pinyin. And entire sentence or two, an entire 6-sentence conversation. And that's only happened in the past few weeks. Yeah. And I'm okay, I'm excited that I can now sound like a buffoon when I'm reading out this thing that's there, but I still don't understand what it means yet. So I guess that'll come at some point in the future, but this is a stepping stone. Yeah. When I learned Spanish, and I never got very high up with Spanish, but when I learned Spanish, the reading and the comprehension seemed to come pretty hand in hand. The script was very similar. A lot of the words were very similar. The intonation and the sound seemed very similar. So it didn't feel like a lot of meaning was lost. And that's not true for Mandarin for me.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I had commented on one of your videos recently. It seems like you made a lot of progress all of a sudden. You've broken through that plateau, and all of a sudden got all these other things I know how to do now. Stuff just all of a sudden just clicks and it makes sense. I was really happy to see that, because I remember that.
It takes so much time though, because I'm not doing 6 hours a day. I'm doing under 2 hours a day. But it's like you said, 5-6 days a week, 7 days a week sometimes, and really pushing and making sure that you're doing it all the time and not missing too many days in a row. And it's almost a challenge because it seems so unobtainable. It's almost like I'm feeling myself pushing more than any other language that I've tried to learn before.
About what is it? It's not a learning curve, but it's supposed to be in the first 20 hours of learning a skill, put in a small amount of time and you get a large amount of benefit from it. I feel for learning Mandarin as an English speaker, it's you'll be in that phase for years.
Yes.
It's not just those 20 hours, or it's not just a couple months. You'll be there for a long time.
A man from the UK who has learned to read, and he's reading science fiction in Chinese within 2 years, which I think is just crazy. But he also spent a lot of time, and I think he was dating locally and things like that give you more exposure, those kinds of things. Not to excuse it, because he seems very good at learning languages. He was saying that with some languages, it's very easy at the beginning, and then it gets really hard when you get to the finer grammar points. And he said that Mandarin's the opposite, where it's really hard at the beginning. And then when you reach a certain point, you start recognizing, even if you don't know the word, you can probably read parts of it. There are sound components and things that can help you. And the grammar is still the same because that doesn't vary that much. And So it's the hardest part is the first few years. And then it gets a lot easier. But that was his theory.
I would agree with that, with one exception. I think that it gets harder again towards the top level.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I haven't gotten there yet, but like, I don't know if you try to watch like a movie or something like that and like look at all the subtitles and like pause and like, but sometimes the grammar, dude, like this is not the same grammar I was just studying a minute ago. Like what happened? But it's because, as far as I know, like there's a literary language. There's like there are other languages or quote unquote languages, but it just gets crazy like that. Or then if you go into their classical language, just like it's totally different.
It's funny because I was interviewing this gentleman from my PhD program. He grew up in China and now he's in the US doing his PhD. And he was saying in China, they start with those literary references. First and second grade, they're reading like poems and literary pieces. And so they're getting those bits of language that are used later on in everything. Even in newspapers, people are saying, right? So
Wow.
he's like, they're getting them like in first and second grade and then the whole way through. But they're starting that early.
Wow.
Right? And I'd heard people complain about this, like, oh, I thought I knew the language, and then all of this happened.
You ever wonder if like we learn it backwards? Our way of studying a language is to deconstruct it and then like rationalize it, but the way that you learn it as a native is different.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be going about it the same way they do.
Maybe, because then you wouldn't have to learn that stuff, which is commonly used later on when you think that you've already learned so much. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe problems with fluency or like the correct way to phrase something, like the phraseology wouldn't be so like different.
And I asked him, I was like, well, okay, you guys were in first and second grade. Do you feel like you and your classmates understood what you were reading? And he's like, of course we did. And I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. I'm thinking of like 8-year-olds in the US and the intense stuff we didn't read at that age. Well, we did read the Declaration of Independence, or at least part of it. That was...
Is that even a comparison though? Like,
No, I don't think so.
Would their classical Chinese, would that be compared to like Middle English or like Old English?
Maybe. I had somebody else compare it to Shakespeare, which does take some time to get used to. Like that's one author with that way of writing, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know enough Chinese to know this yet. I'm just kind of getting it through your mouth in English I'm collecting information. But I was floored by how early they started that. And they had to memorize it and recite it. They had to write it to do their writing practice. And I'm just like, whoa.
That's amazing. Like I can't imagine it because it's just like it's totally different from what you hear on the street, you know, or anywhere.
Like we quote Shakespeare every now and then, sometimes jokingly, sometimes not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have literary references throughout English too, because we grew up with it. We don't think about it until somebody says, hey, what does that mean? But that's not taught in English language textbooks either. Language teaching in general ignores reality for a very long time. Crazy. Second grade. What was the hardest thing you read in second grade?
I don't even remember second grade. I think I blocked out most of my schooling experience.
I think I remember the Declaration of Independence because it's just when we moved from New York to Pennsylvania. And so I was like super conscious about standing in front of my new classmate reciting it. But if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have even remembered that. Yeah.
Maybe it was like learning the American kind of things. I do remember I missed the day that we learned the Star Spangled Banner. I came back the next day. Everybody was singing it. And I was, what are the words of this song?
Whoa, yeah. That's funny.
Years.
They spent only one day on the national anthem.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't ask questions about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I was not an active participant in most of my schooling until I got to the last part of my bachelor's. I really, really disliked my primary and secondary school experience in the U.S. Yeah. K through 12 was like, can it be over now, please?
If you're enjoying this conversation about the Chinese language and would like to participate, if you're studying the Chinese language or if you come from the Chinese language and have learned other languages, either perspective is actually both perspectives are greatly appreciated on this channel. Let's have a conversation. Let's tape that sucker and let's get it into this podcast. Contact me. And let's etch out the details on how to get you and your valuable language learning experience onto this podcast. All of my information is in the show notes. Also, all over social media except Facebook, I am Steph Puccio, STEPHFUCCIO. That includes Gmail for my email, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and LinkedIn. So I look forward to hearing from you.
you've started and stopped calling character words and words characters, and I find that this happens so often when I talk about Mandarin Chinese. When you're talking about learning this to anybody that isn't learning it, how do you describe to them how confusing characters and words are?
I say terms now. I use the word terms.
Oh, instead of either one of them.
Yeah, because, I mean, even technically in English, what really is a word? I mean, like, we separate things out with spaces, so that's what we call a word, but, you know, it gets confused sometimes. Like, I mean, you obviously don't know this, but, like, each other, like, that's one word, or is it two words? You know, it's like...
I thought it was two, but I'm beginning to question it now.
Or you know, myself, you know, is that one word or is that two words?
Well, that one's, well, yeah, going by spaces, it's one.
Yeah. You know, and if you think about like German or something like that, you know how they concatenate like words together, so
yeah,
it becomes a longer word. You know, it's like, really, what is a word? In my opinion, a word is an idea. Like, it expresses one basic idea.
So would you call collocations like get up, go to sleep, those kinds of things? Would you call like each one of those a term?
Those move on into phrases, I would say, but like just slightly smaller than that is a term, is a word, and I think that's what's more important. So when I describe what Mandarin is like to people that don't study languages or study Mandarin in particular, I say like, oh well, you know, imagine you were learning English by syllables. Like, what would that be like? You know, oh man, you know, I learned like 30 new syllables. I'm like, okay, that's great, but like, what does that actually mean? Like, what have you actually done? It's like, you haven't really done anything. Like, sometimes a syllable is one word,
right?
You know, stuff like that. You know, but like, but yeah, like again, like you say, like yourself. It's like, yeah, I mean, you got two syllables there, but it's like, that's not two different. That's not really not two different words. Like that's like the one idea right there.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a time to like put those together. In Mandarin, I would express it as "zi," which is like word, language, like term. It just means term. You know.
I gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. We have syllables in English. We sometimes teach syllables. We understand what syllables are to a point, but Chinese is much more syllabic than English is. We have a lot of loan words and things like that don't, like, we don't have the specific pattern to English like Mandarin does. And yet spacing and words and the sentences with only punctuation generally at the ends is very confusing at the beginning, I think. What was the biggest thing that was hard for you when you first started?
This might not be kind of like in the direction you're looking for, but it's like getting in the habit. So the way that I do like new skills or new information is like, I won't tell anybody about it until I can promise myself that I can do it for a month, at least a month straight. Suddenly. So it's just really hard because of that brain burn or whatever it is. Like, I've never experienced that before, like ever. I think there's only been one other thing now that I've gotten like this, but I mean, this is just recently. This is after studying Mandarin, but like that serious like headache you get after like trying to decipher what things mean for so, and so like because of that, like it was just really hard to commit. Like it becomes like, and that's why I have to take those breaks after like two-ish weeks. Yeah, because like I can't even force myself. I can't even like think about it. I can't manage to think about studying. Like it's almost physically painful to feel like, oh, I got to do this again. It's like, oh my god. So I hate doing that, but like I forced myself for a month, and then after that it became easy.
That sounds like a natural rhythm, but you keep coming back to it, and that's the important part.
Yeah.
What do you do to make sure you keep coming back to it? Do you have any sort of like time frame where you say, I'm going to take this much time off and then I'll come back?
I've gotten clever on my way to studying. So a couple months in, say 6 to 8 months in, I switched my phone to Chinese. And then shortly after, I switched my browsers on my PC to Chinese. And I started subscribing to a ton of Chinese channels and everything. So if I didn't want to look at it, like I would always be forced to look at it. And then, so I still get burned out. But what ends up happening is at the end of the burnout period, basically what I've decipher that means is that I've processed the information and now I'm like open to receiving more information. So I'll become curious again and I'll see the words. I won't know what it means. And I'll be like curious to look it up. That's when it happens. That's when I know I can go back in, and it just happens organically.
How long is it usually when that happens? Like a few weeks?
Yeah, it's usually a couple of weeks, but it can be longer because of work. I like to learn a lot of different things at once. I can only balance like certain kinds of things. One like kind of academic thing, one like kind of physical thing. So basically that's all I can do is I have one of those, each of those slots filled up, and then like over time, like I can just return to it. Felt that the burn yet, like this?
Oh, yet from the beginning. Well, I did do a lot more games and apps and learning about the language for the first few months, but ever since I switched over to words, and especially when I started to read with the characters without the pinyin, the burn's been real. The burn's been real. And I do physical flashcards because I didn't find that the digital ones didn't quite stick. I don't know if it was the process of writing them or what have you, but I will literally just stare at the flashcard and wait for it to hit me. And the burn happens a lot of times then. When I get to the point where I start to recognize it, but I can't remember it, it's a little painful. And by the time I get to the fourth deck that I'm reviewing that day, I'm like, But
wow.
There's only 9 in a deck. So, I mean, it's not that impressive.
I mean, it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but the burn is there. But I feel like the burn's what happens just before it hits or it sticks. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels like the burn is the precursor to the muscle changing for good. At least that's what I want to believe, because it hits often.
No, that's really cool. Like that is one of the things I've been most interested about your process is that you decided to stick with a liner box, and I really just want to see how this progresses. I like I said, like there are not many other people that I've found that study language. Either they're like the pros, like the polyglots and stuff like that, or like there are people that are just now beginning or something like that. So I'm like, I saw you posting videos, like, holy crap, like I get to like actually talk to someone who's like actually developing and doing this and is passionate about it. So like every time you post a video about like a new like plateau or progress, I'm stoked because it's cool to see.
That's so cool. It's so funny because I was looking for 5-minute language videos when I first started, and that's what got me on YouTube looking for that. I usually just use YouTube for videos, maybe interviews. I don't know. I didn't use it for a lot of things. And so I was looking for the grammar videos, and I stumbled across my first YouTube language blogger, and then one led to another, and the algorithm got me and sucked me in and pulled me in, and I started watching a bunch of different people doing this. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's a way to track my progress, because I had a habit of starting languages and just kind of petering out, and I was like, if I'm visibly accountable, then maybe that'll be part of the process to pressure me to keep going. So it was a bunch of different folks talking about the languages they were learning and showing their methods. Oh my God, it was so cool to watch other people study languages, because I've only seen my students do that in the classroom. Like I've never actually hung out with like in a study group watching other people study languages, and I was like, oh, how is this done? How are you doing this? So crazy. Are you an Instagram person?
Not really.
There's a hashtag called StudyGram, and it literally is pictures of what people are studying. They'll take pictures of their highlighters, their study material, their textbook, like all these different things.
Okay, I want to look this up then.
It's really bad. I first thought, like, somebody recommended it to me, and I'm like, I don't know, I'll check it out. And like after the first day, I'm like, this is my tribe. You sound like a lifelong learner. You like to learn new things, right?
Yeah.
And that's what these guys are doing, only they're showing you what they're working on. And it's like, that's so cool.
So nerdy, so awesome.
It's so awesome. Yeah, well, I'm sure you've met a number of people outside of an academic setting and even in who aren't really curious about a lot of stuff and just want to make some money or just have a happy life and all that kind of stuff. And that's not how my brain functions. I need to be challenged, and yeah.
Yes. And
then that hashtag StudyGram. They're those folks.
Right on. Yeah, I'll check it out. That sounds freaking awesome.
It really is. Okay, there's a little too much highlighters, but get past it. The other stuff is very cool. From one of the local women in Shanghai that I interviewed about her learning languages outside of Mandarin, she wanted to know what language people dreamt in.
Normally, I don't really think about that, I guess. I guess I would say I dream in English. There have been some times where I think I'm dreaming in Mandarin. Mm-hmm. I think maybe 2 or 3 times that's happened. But I would relate it to what happens when you read a novel. You don't really read the words, you experience the story.
So you're not thinking about what language things are happening in, you're just experiencing things.
I'm working on my output now. Like I've totally neglected output the entire time. I'm just now starting it. When I'm listening to people or when I start feeling like I'm able to communicate in the language, like in small sections, I'm not speaking the language, I'm speaking the story of what I want to say, and it just happens to be coming through that filter.
The only other question is, what should I ask other people that I interview in the future? Because I'm interviewing two sets of folks learning and then using the language, like you and I, learning, using. And then I'm also interviewing Chinese folks who learn other languages. And so for either set of folks, what should I ask them?
Being from an IT background, I've seen a lot of developments in the past couple of years, mostly pertaining to AI, artificial intelligence, right? One of the things that's coming up is natural language processing, as well as that new product, which I'm forgetting the name of, that Google just showcased. It's in its beta form. It's one that allows an AI to talk to restaurants or something, to call restaurants and have a conversation that sounds like a human is having.
Oh, okay.
Things like that coming out and going to be happening very soon. Mm-hmm. Do you still find a point in learning a language?
That's a good one. Thank you. Well, okay. Do you want to answer your own question?
I will answer it from my perspective. Yes, I will still learn it. Still learn languages because of the challenge. You know, it may not be the most efficient way to communicate. Computers might do it better. I mean, we still have to always communicate with our own voices, obviously. But despite the fact that the language learning process could be totally upended and replaced by robots, I still would find a lot of value in it. Same as learning any other skill for my own enrichment. You know, what about you?
No, it's a tough one. This does not come easily at all. There are skills that I find writing is super easy for me. I'm not saying writing eloquently or amazingly or whatever, but writing, the process of writing, what to write, how to write, editing, I find that entire process super easy. If anything, I overwrite. So, and I know that a lot of people struggle with that. On the opposite side, learning languages is one of the hardest things my brain tries to do. If there was a chip that I could put into my brain to learn a language, I wouldn't want just the words. If I could put the chip in my brain and see that point of view from the languages that use that language, then I would want the chip. If the chip was only the language without the point of view, without the cultural stuff that goes with it, then I think I'd still want to learn the language.
Yeah, I get it.
The most interesting part for me, in addition to just the script of Mandarin Chinese, is the viewpoint that goes with it that I hope I can understand at some point in the next 12 years, is the different ways to view things in the world. That's really what I want.
What do you think causes that viewpoint? Gives that to you? With
different cultures, you mean?
With learning a language, getting a new perspective on the world, what do you think it is that actually facilitates?
Oh, I mean the viewpoint of the people that use the language I'm trying to learn.
Oh,
part of the appeal with Chinese is that there's a lot of things that seriously confuse me with Chinese culture. And as I learn the language, are those going to start making sense?
Oh, I see.
And so it's sort of like a cultural puzzle in addition to a linguistic puzzle. And they may or may not, but that is to be seen.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I think if that were taken away from the experience and it was just communication with just words that meant a word was a intention and something happened and that was it, then I'd say, forget it. Technology can do everything. I'll go do something else.
Interesting. I mean, I think that's a pretty practical and reasonable answer.
Although I don't think any of this is going to happen in my lifetime.
No, you don't think so?
No, there's so much behind AI and machine learning that's really clunky right now, and they're testing out stuff, but they don't really know what's happening. And with natural language processing, my God, that's a whole other conversation. Because I learned to use Python in order to do natural language processing, and it was not the beautiful creature that I wanted it to be.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had high hopes. It could still turn into something really amazing. It's just not there yet, and I'm an impatient person.
Is this the app that you were talking about before?
Oh, no. This is the PhD program we were in. We had to learn Python to use, and I'm not remembering the natural language processing stuff, but there was all these packages and all these things we needed to do. And so the first class was Python. The second class was just natural language processing. We had a variety of different projects to work on in that. And I eventually wanted to lead that into helping folks with writing fluency, but it's just so freaking clunky. A lot of the language apps right now seem to be made from people in tech that don't know or don't want to know about the language learning side. And then you have the language learning teachers or creators of paper content who seem to be allergic to technology. And the two folks are not really getting together very well. The whole intention of that PhD program was it was like applied linguistics and technology. It was supposed to combine the two, but the technology is focused on, we're working on accuracy, basically red penning everything. And that's not really where I wanted to pitch my tent. Yeah.
You haven't given up, have you?
I think I've moved over to the motivational side, to be honest with you.
Oh. This is the point where I was supposed to play the clip from Star Wars. No, you were the chosen one.
I would not run from a situation where I could use my language learning teaching expertise with this much technology stuff that I know. I wouldn't run from a situation, but I think there's a space for motivation in language learning as well, which could still be app driven. But it would need to connect people to people, not just be automated. Like, I've got some great ideas. I just have very little patience to sit down and code the damn things into existence.
Fair enough. Yeah.
At some point, I need to find somebody who has the technical expertise and not the ideas, so I can put the ideas with their technical expertise and poof.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing. Yeah.
I say this in my late 40s as if I've got like 50, 100 years left in my life, right?
Well, that's the great thing about ideas and everything is that, well, it might feel like it will take forever. Like, it doesn't. It just takes the right stuff at the right time. And then it can, just like that, and you'll be like, already there. For sure. And like I said, I'm not closed off to any opportunities. If anything, I'm putting myself all over the friggin' internet. I'm much more comfortable with the audio version, like what this is going to turn into. But the characters were the thing that drew me in this time, and I had to give them a life in a visual sense, which is why I ended up going with the YouTube channel for that. If it wasn't for that, that would have been a non-visual thing. But they're so cool. And here in Shanghai, there's just tons of characters everywhere, just giant sized and small sized, stylistic size. They're just so cool looking. Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So thank you so much, Vaughn, for joining us today on Changing Scripts podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Changing Scripts podcast. Again, if you are learning the Chinese language, or if you're coming from the Chinese language learning another language, I'd love to interview you for this podcast. Go ahead and contact me, and we will hash out how to get you on this sound creation known as the Changing Scripts podcast. A lot more is coming your way soon.
Membership fees apply after free trial. Cancel anytime.
You know what's wrong with health and fitness? You weaponize it against yourself. Why didn't you go to the gym today? You're so lazy. Why did you eat that? You have no self-control. Stop it. At Beachbody, we think training and caring for your body in a way that works best for you should be about loving yourself. Let us help you without all the judgment. Here's how. Go to beachbody.com to claim your free membership and start feeling great.